Fellow Tennesseans, Brandon Lewis here with the TennCon Big 7 Weekend Digest. Oh, look at these stories. We've got things in the stack of stuff that will curl your hairs. It will put your toenails back. It will take the paint off the wall. We're talking about things that you will not get from any other news source but the Tennessee Conservative News. Do help us in the fight against big tech censorship by going to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and hit that subscribe button. Guys, if you're just watching us on the old My Book face, if you're just on the inner tube of social manipulation, you're not getting the straight unfiltered news that you really need. We send this puppy out 11:30 every day. You can see Jason just posted it in the comment section. Speaking of posting in the comment section, please do tell us from which you are watching. I love seeing your comments roll in, and also tell us what you think about the stories. The Peanut Gallery, I want it. I want to hear from the Peanut Gallery. Or the Two Old Men and the Muppets, whichever you prefer to be referred to, are fantastic subscribers. Do follow us on other free speech platforms: Parler, MeWe, Getter, Gab, Truth, Rumble. Let's get right into the stories. First up, concerned Tennesseans call for a special session to address mutilation of kids at Vanderbilt. Following Matt Walsh's investigation that revealed Vanderbilt University's Medical Center Transgender Clinic is performing radical surgeries on children, terrible, in Tennessee, some legislators began calling on the Tennessee General Assembly to pass legislation to prevent further sexual reassignment surgeries on minors. Lieutenant Governor Andy McNally and Senator Farrell Hale, two men that I would not trust as far as I can throw them or they could walk without going out of breath, replied by stating they expect bills to be dealing with transgender medical care to be sponsored in the General Assembly when it convenes in 2023, yet they will not tell you that when there were pieces of legislation that would have addressed this in the last few sessions, they killed it and changed it. And that's the headline that just kills me. Kills me. I don't know. And if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, if you're watching this broadcast, we reported on this, similar to how we reported on the illegal immigration center that we got shut down here in Chattanooga, and the Tennessee media will not pick up on it. I've not, maybe this is being followed, written about in another news organization, but I've heard jack squat about it. The real story here is, why did it get killed the first time when we could have prevented all this? That's the real story, not that a few politicians have egg on their face because finally the national media is picking up on this stuff. However, concerned Tennesseans are voicing that they are not content with waiting until 2023 for legislation that may or may not be presented or passed, and are calling for the General Assembly to have a special session to address this issue because, as we are often leading from behind here in Tennessee, Oklahoma recently had a special session to immediately address the same issue. Wow. In the end of 2021, two special sessions were called by the General Assembly, and they weren't happy to do it. The first being to discuss details of the approval of hundreds of millions of dollars, roughly $1 billion for Ford Motor Company, which, boy, they couldn't get up there fast enough for that. Giving your money away to woke corporations. Woo! Got to get up there. And after a huge push by conservative Republicans and constituents, a second special session was approved to address the loss of medical freedoms in the state brought about by the government's ridiculous response to the pandemic that we all know now didn't work. We know it doesn't prevent transmission. We know doing all this doesn't prevent transmission. We know from the studies that all the small businesses that were shut down and shuttered at the hands of the GOP did not stop jack squat, but it did help ruin the economy. We got that at least, right? In July of this year, there was talk of a special session being called to bring Republican presidential convention in Nashville and possibly penalize the Metro Nashville Council for rejecting it. It stands to reason that a session could be called to put a stop to the disfiguring surgeries being done to children in the Vanderbilt state as well. If you'd like to contact your state senators, representatives, or Governor Lee and ask them to do that now, You can find the contact in the information in the story we just published on our website. Please do comment in the comment section. What do you think about all this? I would like to know. Share this in the conservative groups. Here we go. Eric says the child abuse must be prosecuted and they who participated fired and civilly sued for damages. I'd love to see that. I would love to see that, Eric. Bet your bottom dollar. I'd love to see that. Next story. Please tell us where you're watching from. Tell us where you're coming in from. Tell us just what you think about our work in general here. Post this in all of the social media groups where conservatives are. I'm telling you guys, people know what's going on in Washington, D.C., but they don't know jack squat about what's going on just down the road in their state capital. And it ain't good. It ain't good. People move here. I'd say about 7 to 5% of our subscribers are people moving from out of state into Tennessee, and if they're on our list, they're obviously conservatives. And then men and women who have moved here, and they start looking around and digging in, and they realize, not as conservative as I had thought. Pro-life groups urge Metro Nashville City Council to vote against pro-abortion resolution. Please don't try to kill babies. This is the day and age we live in. Tennessee Eagle Forum is joining with Tennessee Right to Life. Tennessee Eagle Forum, Bobby Petray, very nice lady. Fighter for freedom. Pound for pound, probably one of the toughest in the state. Urging Metro Nashville City Council members to vote no on a pro-abortion resolution that will give Planned Parenthood $500,000 of taxpayer money. The council postponed a vote on the resolution last month until October 4th meeting so as to comply with the rules for transferring the funds. Nashville's already broke as a joke. Poorly managed, as you would expect of a Democrat city. The resolution earmarks grant money of $150,000 toward out-of-state travel expenses for residents who wish to abort unborn children, and another $150,000 for safer sex supplies. If you want to stop unwanted pregnancy, it's very easy. Very easy. Don't do it. $200,000 is allocated for comprehensive sex education. No consideration has been given to a proposal to give the same type of funding to life-affirming organizations that support parenting or adoption. No. Just live like it's Sodom and Gomorrah and take care of the consequences later, even if it means somebody has to be snuffed out. That's the approach they want to take. The grant is just one of several other efforts to circumvent the Human Life Protection Act that makes abortion a felony in Tennessee, and I hope when the general session gets back up in Nashville that lawmakers take a look at what Nashville is doing here and they come up with some kind of criminal penalty for those who are in legislative or city rulemaking, lawmaking authority. Put some of these folks in the hoose cow. Jesse Turner, president of Greater Nashville Area Chapter of Tennessee Right to Life, is asking pro-life supporters in Davidson County to express opposition to the resolution that will fund the Planned Parenthood grant with taxpayer money before October. The meeting on Tuesday. She also suggests contacting Vice Mayor Jim Schulman at 615-584-1082. I'll say that again. Take your pen and piece of paper out if you live in the Nashville area. 615-584-1082, and ask that he remove the divisive and controversial resolution from the consent agenda. Davidson County residents can find their Metro Council numbers, contact information, the article on our website, which Jason has posted in the comment section. What do you think about this? The best and brightest we have in Nashville Metro government? At a den of iniquity. Moving right along. Nashville all-girls school ignores parents' concerns, enacts gender diversity policy to admit boys who imagine they are girls. Last month, the Tennessee Conservative reported that a Nashville elite all-girls school, Harpeth Hall, apparently now going to be called Harpeth Balls, was planning to enact a new policy to allow applicants from individuals who identify as females regardless of their biological sex. Switch slides. Thank you, Jason. Happens every show. Every show. I just get so passionate about the news that I forget about the audio visual. Ah, look at that. Now, back to the story. Following the initial letter sent out to parents regarding the school's decision to allow boys who identify as girls into the school, we report stories in Tennessee and in other areas about sexual assault in bathrooms, hotel rooms on the road. What could possibly go wrong by letting someone into a school, and inmates, and this is stories out of state, who identify as men being placed in men's prisons, and women who identify as men being, vice versa. And magically, one of these men that identifies as a woman got another woman pregnant. Apparently, all the identification in the world doesn't matter with things like this. Why in the world an organization like this would put its own students in harm's way for the sake of virtue signaling to others is maddeningly crazy. And I hope that the funders of this university, I hope that their donations dry up like the gulch in Mexico when it has not rained in about 6 months. Places like this just drive me crazy. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Following the school's policy on the policy, the Tennessee Conservative subscriber warned that citizens should not become complacent by this small victory, and the school would eventually roll out the plan anyway. As it turns out, the Tennessee Conservative subscriber was correct in her statement, a veritable Nostradamus of political predictions. So let me get this straight. We have seen this play out time and time again. Why organizations cannot learn their lesson, I do not understand. Boy Scouts of America started all this garbage as well years ago, and are still all wound up in it. Similar but different. What happened to enrollment in that organization? What happened to gifts? What happened to everything else? Dried up. People don't like it. Same thing that happens with churches that don't preach the gospel, because it's culturally inconvenient and uncomfortable. You've got people when you stand on certain principles and then you violate those principles as an organization, guess what? Guess what? You don't have as many people that follow you. All right, guys, we appreciate your help here at the Tennessee Conservative. Do help us support our work. This is going to be the shortest support pitch ever. The Tennessee Conservative, you can mail us checks. We got a couple. We got a couple this week. To East 27th Street, 1523 East 27th Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37404. But for most of you, you will simply go to Tennessee Conservative News/support, and you will give via credit card. Hopefully make it a recurring donation. We could use it. And when you do, we will send you one of these Don't California My Tennessee bumper stickers. We will also send you this Proud Tennessee Conservative bumper sticker and a directory of all your state officials up there in Nashville. And finally, the Proud Tennessee Conservative tumbler. Now listen, I know Joe Biden's got gas prices through the roof. Inflation is bad. But buddy, if we don't fight now, there won't be anywhere to fight. Where are we going to go if we give up Tennessee? Where's another more conservative state that's better to live in? I don't know of one. Well, guess what's part of fighting? It's having a conservative news source in our state that actually tells you the truth and is exclusively and only focused on the volunteer state. And as it turns out, I happen to be the only one. The only freaking one. And people complain about not having one, but yet they don't give. Now listen, I know that prices are high for gas and everything else, and you may not be able to afford a trip. But let me send you on a quick little trip right now. And it's very free. It's free. It's called a guilt trip. Guilt trip. Better than a vacation, at least for Tennessee. Right now, less than 5% of donors have ever given to our publication a red cent. Guys, you wonder why conservative organizations are underfunded. If you're in that 95%, next time you wonder why things aren't different, just walk up to a mirror and look in it. It takes everybody pulling together. Liberals give liberally. Conservatives give conservatively, and it's part of the problem. Go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support. Don't be in that 95%. It is an embarrassing place to be, and you are in poor company. Moving right along. See, that guilt trip was absolutely free. Who says I don't take you places? American classical education faces misinformation and dishonest opposition in quest to open Tennessee charter schools. The widespread mainstream media coverage of Hillsdale's President Arndt's comments was used as an excuse for the liberal-dominated school boards of Madison, Montgomery, and Rutherford counties to reject the charter school application of American classical education affiliated with Hillsdale that is endeavoring to open 3 new charter schools in Tennessee. Why? Why? Simple. If you run a crappy educational system that is failing the kids epically, do you want a place opening up from that crap hole right across the street that actually would pursue educational excellence? Would you want competition? No. When you offer a bad product where people are already discontent and an alternative shows up, what do people do? They move. They move their kids, they move their money, they move their attention and their allegiances. As it should be, it's all about the kids. My ass. These people are an embarrassment to the profession. What little bit of professionalism is left in government education. Daughter of Arndt, Kathleen O'Toole, who's the head of Hillsdale's K-12 education initiative, said critics have grossly exaggerated the control of the college exerts over its affiliated charter schools. She said, all we do is advise them. We don't hire and fire. They're totally separate organizations from us, and they're totally free to follow our advice or not to follow our advice if they want to. It is their show. We're just there as a provider of resources to help them be successful. Tammy Sharp, a Republican county school board member who voted yes on a charter school in her district, dismissed the idea that ACE is comprised by its Hillsdale connection. She said, it's critical that you know ACE charter schools are not funded by Hillsdale. They are not a Christian school. They have their own money to build or buy a building that our local taxpayers don't have to fund to start a charter school in this area, and is an additional choice for parents. These government employees who would rather your kids be illiterate and indoctrinated aren't going to take their hands off your dollars or your children because it's not in their best interest. And Republicans just allow it every year. Every year, school choice initiatives die in the legislature at the hands of people like Mark White, with the acquiescence of Cameron Sexton and Bill Lee and Randy McNally. If we really wanted to get our kids out of these burning buildings that we call government schools, we could do it today. Will we? Hell no. No. A third of kids reading at grade level, approaching grade level. Mastery in the single digits. Mathematics and science, same situation. Same situation. If we really cared about the kids, the results would be different, but we don't. The older I get, the more I learn to ignore men's words and observe their actions. What do the actions say to you? Poor performance in education. No Democrats to blame. None. After the school board denied the application for ACE's 3 charter schools in July, the company appealed those decisions to the Tennessee 9-member Public Charter School Commission. The former state senator and current ACE board member, Dolores Gresham, reports that since the commission hearings have been underway, mainstream media outlets have spread misinformation about ACE's involvement with Hillsdale lacked out. Who gives a rip about what Larry Arnn said, that teachers come from some of the dumbest parts of universities, and that the curriculum for getting an education degree is not very challenging? Because it's the damn truth. It's the truth. Elizabeth says we need to get some new blood in the House and Senate. Amen. I'm going to be working on a candidate training and maybe even a coaching program. We could have got more people across the finish line the last time if I had done this. I just didn't have the time, and I still don't. It's a distraction for me making money in my other business, but by God, nobody else is doing it, so I guess I'm going to have to. Charles Cook says, preach it, brother. Amen. This is terrible. It just aggravates me. I'm like, why do we have to talk about these problems over and over and over again? We spend more time, energy, and effort bullcrapping about this stuff and making a show of trying to fix it than if we ever actually fixed it. Would have been done years ago. Democratic political candidates and anti-school choice activists mischaracterized the charter schools as a Protestant Christian school in order to attempt and diminish their appeal parents to the public. Parents in support of ACE state they hope the commission will judge the appeals on their merits and not be swayed by political bias. When I was in undergraduate, it was routine in freshman year and sophomore year at Jacksonville State University, which turned out more teachers than any other university in the state of Alabama, to my knowledge at the time. I do not know if that is still the case. People would start out in business. They would start out in medical. They would start out in nursing. They would start out in physiology or whatever. And around freshman year, if they did not have a good study ethic, and if they would rather stay out all night long drinking or playing video games, which many of them did, they would do what? Switch to education. Because it was easy. Easy. That's why they did it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I am saying that between the fact that we have turned public education into a government job factory with lots of vacation time and benefits, we have also simultaneously created a culture and a system that is so corrupt and ineffective, and only 53% of the money even makes it into the classroom, that if they just give parents half the money, they could educate their kids at a private Christian school or school of their choice like I do for half the money. We recently ran a story, I don't know if we're going to talk about it today or not. At the national level, places like Chicago are spending $30,000 a kid. We're spending about 12 here in Tennessee. Guess what the performance looks like for that 30 grand, pardon me. Well, it's like a hot cow pie. It's terrible. Money ain't the issue. We used to teach kids how to write long-form essays about the Iliad and the Odyssey in 3rd and 4th grade with a piece of chalk on a dirt floor with wood benches to sit on. Now they can't even read or write after 13 years of excellent government instruction here in the United States. All right, next story. Okay, backing up here. Speaking of not giving a rip about the kids, Chattanooga's Wanderling Brewing Company promotes wildly inappropriate drag show for kids. Chattanooga Pride Week began last Friday, September 23rd, and the second day was promoted as Youth Day. If you can't grow 'em, groom 'em. Wanderling Brewing Company hosted a drag show where a kid was allowed to touch the crotch of Chattanooga Princess Party's Ariel. Fine business. And later a drag queen spread his legs in front of another child. Good family fun. You know, we've quit doing family game night at the Lewis household. Too wholesome. We've decided that from now on, our family activities, we're going to have a drag show because that's real family friendly. When I think about family friendly entertainment, things that are appropriate for little kids, this is what I think about. And apparently a certain section of the population does, and buddy, does that reflect on our culture. Ariel, representing Chattanooga Princess Parties, is not a drag queen, but one concerned Chattanooga parent said that when Ariel allowed the little girl to rub her crotch, she probably thought it was innocent enough, but it looks horrible in the videos. Here's the thing. You have little kids in a room. This is very simple. And you have men that are dressed up like women, and you have women that are dressed up like women, and they're all in costumes. Do you think those kids can tell the difference between the men and women, or do you think they know what they're being subjected to at the present? Probably not. And I think many of those kids that will later grow up to be socially adjusted properly, and who'll realize that their parents drugged them through this garbage, are going to be scarred for it. This is not the kind of thing you put your kids around. You know, I grew up in a situation where we were dirt poor, didn't have any money, and often were not parented. We cohabitated primarily, but weren't parented, and some of the parenting was not very good. And I found myself in situations, not in anything like this, but situations of this variety, that were completely inappropriate, and it does not help you as an adult, and it does not help you as a youth. And the parents who put their kids in this situation probably never had to be put in one themselves, or maybe they were, and that's why they do it. A parent goes on to say that the fact that the company participated in the event knowing it was a drag show is despicable. Robbie Starbuck said it is not hard to redirect a kid away from that area if they go to feel for your crotch. I hate to even have to read this. It embarrasses me. Following the video clip posted by Robbie Starbuck's Getter feed shows the same thing again. I don't even want to read it. Starbuck wrote, "It's not hard to not spread your leg for kids." Why do you have to say this stuff? I hate saying it to you. The fact that they want to do this should make it very clear to everyone that this is wildly inappropriate. In my view, this is illegal conduct by adults who brought the kids and performers who sexualized it. Where's law enforcement? In Tennessee, there will be no place to be sexually inappropriate for kids. We'll be watching and we'll be reporting this to the public authorities. Starbuck continued, Tennesseans, send this to your reps and demand that they stop this. Now, Janice Bowling sent me some TCA code that seems to be very plain that this is illegal. Very plain. Very easy to understand. And yet, here we go. Why? Because we don't have any district attorneys. And here in our county, Zach Wamp, this boy, Weston, waded into this. Appropriately, in my opinion, showed a little backbone and a little spine, and then, what happens? Get a little pushback. And then we start, whoop, just walk it back. Oh, and then it all comes, all the diversity statements and all this, and it's like, if you're going to stand up and then sit right back down, just don't ever stand up. It's embarrassing. And it's not very manly. Either stand or don't. I was like, well, that's good. And then next, like, it's the same old waffling crap you get. People can't decide. Whatever's politically expedient. I hate that stuff. Pick a side. Stick to it. In more related drag news, boy, this is beginning to be a drag. Yes, folks, the jokes are free. You're here for the news, but the jokes are free. Pink Palace Drag Show canceled by last minute by Memphis Museum. The Memphis Museum of Science and History, because we all know that when we think about science and we think about history, I think about men in dresses and kids. That's what I think about primarily. Canceled its Memphis Proud Drag Show and Dance Party just minutes before performers were set to take the stage, if you can call these people performers. On Friday evening, the show was touted as the grand culmination of the Memphis's Museum of Science and History Summer of Pride programming and a celebration of the gay community. The drag queen show, advertised as family-friendly. I mean, if this qualifies as family-friendly, what doesn't? Is there anything that wouldn't qualify as family-friendly? I don't think so. Was to feature a cash bar, be followed by a dance party for all ages. When I think family-friendly, I think cash bar drag queens. And apparently these people, that's what they think family-friendly is. Videos shared on social media outlets showed a bearded man in a clown wig and a floor-length gown arguing with Memphis police on Friday night. That's definitely what you need to take your kids to right there. Conservatives rejoiced over the news, citing Tennessee laws that define male and female impersonators as adult cabaret, and they do. Out Memphis, a nonprofit organization that empowers, connects, educates, and advocates for the gay community of the Mid-South, accuses protesters of disrupting the event. The group blamed bigots and homophobic, transphobic, and supremacist groups for the museum's decision to call off the show. The protesters were described as religious, and some appeared to be members of the Proud Boys. Some appeared to be. Here we go again. Robbie and Landon Starbuck are working on an outline for Child Protection and Restoration Act to put an end to such of these things happening. On Sunday, Starbuck wrote, "Demand action to protect children. To my Tennesseans, send this to your state rep in the legislature of your district and ask them to stop this and work with us on legislation to protect the kids." It's embarrassing. All right, next story. Tennessee Supreme Court denies appeal for Nashville taxpayer protection referendum for the second time. The group For Good Government proposed the referendum to change several different topics within the Metro Charter, specifically those regarding property taxes. The Nashville Taxpayer Protection Act would provide a form of safety for residents against increased property taxes. In July of 2021, the state Supreme Court decided that they would not be taking up the Commission's referendum appealing, stating the court concludes this case does not warrant the extraordinary action of the exercise of the court's authority to assume jurisdiction. As a result, the motion to assume jurisdiction has been denied. Just before the initial appeal rejection, a judge ruled to strike down the referendum. Chancellor Russell Perkins stated in his ruling, given that the 6 proposed amendments are not severable, none of the For Good Government's proposed amendments to the Metropolitan's Charter are permitted to be considered for referendum on election of July 27, 2021. So basically what happened, they got all the votes they needed in Nashville to try to protect themselves from this tax and spend, runaway, Democrat-controlled financial hellhole that is Nashville Metro government. They got the votes. But kind of like the GOP, keeping Mark Pulliam off the SEC, even though he was duly elected, and the way I read the bylaws should have been allowed in, and maybe a lot of these other folks that were disenfranchised for running for Congress, according to the bylaws and the footnotes that I've read. My reading comprehension is excellent. Just like the canceling of Gary Humble in Blount County by the Tennessee Federation of Republican Women, the fine print is used to circumvent the will of the people consistently by a party that should be for freedom of speech, that should be for good old-fashioned democracy. Amazes me. At the point, Davidson County Election Commission voted to appeal the decision, and the 2021 property taxes were a hot topic. The city approved a budget that included a 34% property tax increase in the middle of a pandemic. Can we get the shows done at biggest Pride Festival in the USA happening in Knoxville this weekend stopped? I don't know, Mr. Kosla Gershawana. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm so sorry. My Indian is not very good. I don't know what that language is. I apologize. I can barely read and write English, my friend. So you can't expect much from a redneck educated in Alabama's public school systems. Mayor Cooper has repeatedly spoken out against the referendum and called it a waste of taxpayer money to continue the matter up to the courts. A waste of taxpayer money is when you raise taxes by 34% and blow it. Porky. While the case may not be making it to the Supreme Court, it could still end up in the Tennessee Court of Appeals, and I hope it does. Those are the stories. I'm going to hot-foot it to the Indian food restaurant. Indian food restaurant? I know that's not their name. Something, believe it or not, for lunch. Taking John out. What are we doing this weekend? The news stories are over, people. What are we going to do this weekend? I know that's why y'all all hang on here to the end. Let me tell you. So I'm going to leave immediately after this broadcast, such as it has been, to take John, who works for me, is a dutiful employee, for his birthday. He's very old, very old. I just hope he makes it through lunch. Very old. We have a lot of old jokes around here for John. He is the elder statesman in my two businesses. And we're going to go eat some Indian food, hang out, downtown Chattanooga. Tonight, we have separated friends and family by sexes, but he's a nice guy. That Johnny is a nice guy. He's just an old nice guy. Salt of the earth. Tonight, my wife and her lady friends are watching a movie, and so all the menfolk and the kids are coming over to the Lewis Manor to hopefully not be lost or mishandled from a parenting standpoint. We will try to keep them alive for the few hours that our wives are not present. We can make no promises. They may be injured. There may be tears. But I think we can keep them happy and healthy if we've only have to keep up with them for a short period of time. The next day, I think I have got a lot of choring to do around the house. I've got a big shindig coming up the first weekend in November, and I got a lot of stuff to do around the house that has been ignored because of my duties here at the Tennessee Conservative, doing what? Working for you people. For free. For free. So I'm going to have to work for myself for free a little bit around the house this weekend. I may or may not have to go somewhere far away on Saturday night. It has not been determined yet. I'm hoping that I get to stay at home. I'm tired of traveling. You ever get that way? You're just like, I'm just tired of going. I feel like I'm going. I want to sit. I want to sit for a while. I want to work for a little while and then sit. So, what I am excited about, as if any of you care, I love the winter. And one of the reasons I love the winter is because I get to burn fires. I've got, in the new place, I've got 3 wood-burning fireplaces, and I've got a wood-burning stove out in my office. I'm not in my office at home right now. I'm down in the illustrious palatial accommodations off at East 27th Street, where you can send your checks. I will be depositing a couple of them. Very small, not very much money, but, beggars can't be choosy. But I fired that puppy up, and it ran me out of the office. We watched a little movie, which is the only, right now, is the only common area in our house that you can actually sit in, other than a very small library. They're hopefully installing the floors in my house next week and fixing the roof. This has been a long time coming. We found that we had a condensate leak that ran from the first floor all the way down to the 3rd floor, and that's the reason, even though after it had not rained for several days, we had leaks in several areas of our house, but we had one that was bad, and it was apparently leaking from the 1st floor down to the 3rd because it had been ripped off. The condensate line had been ripped off the unit, and it had been filled full of foam. Craftsmanship. At any rate, so I got stuff to do around the house. I got to get that thing ready. Every year for my birthday, I have usually between 12 and 15 or 16 people that come to my house, old friends, just the guys, and we just hang out, play music, cook out, go eat lunch, come back to the house, and it's been going on, I don't know, 12, 13 years now. I'm a big fan of tradition. I think when it comes to relationships, it is critically important to put things on the calendar that recur and to hold to them, because life gets away from you. And if you don't pull out your calendar, and if you don't set those priorities to keep your relationships healthy and alive, they don't do very well. Which makes me think I probably need to get a good date night or 2 on the calendar over the next 2 weeks with my wife. It's been hectic here lately. And I'm moving into my busy season. So I suppose it's just going to get worse from here. But we got lots of work to do. Guys, do go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Do hit that support button. You know what? There's another story I was kind of excited about. Sorry. I just get to ramble here at the end, and for those of you that want to listen, you can, and for those that don't, you just quit listening. That's fine with me. Savage Gulf State Park, which is the closest park. It wasn't a state park until I think last week we reported on this. Became a state park. I guess it was just maybe a recreational area before. Savage Gulf State Park has become a state park. And I was told by my neighbor, Ronnie Lewis, who I bought the land from, no relation. His father and I both shared the same last 4 digits of our phone numbers. That's 1 in 10,000 chance, right? Coincidence. Mailed a bunch of letters out, and he responded. Said that there is some virgin timber in the bottom of Savage Gulf State Park. Now State Park. But I think it's like 9 miles down there. I don't know if I'd want to haul a backpack to camp 9 miles down there. Jason just shared the story in the comment section, but I would like to go see it. So that is on my list of things to do. I love the state parks in Tennessee. They say that everybody has their own kind of welfare that they like, or their own government money they like to spend. And mine would probably be the state parks. I have a simple litmus test for government money. Number 1, can only the government do it? Can only the government do it? And in the case of putting together large tracts of land and managing them, for the most part, I'd say the answer to that is yes. The second question I always have is, can everyone enjoy it equally? And for the most part, I think state parks fit that bill. Education doesn't fit that bill. Medical doesn't fit that bill. Corporate welfare doesn't fit that bill. So many things we do with government money doesn't fit that bill. But the justice system, state parks, roads, bridges, infrastructure that's commonly used, properly maintained militia, yeah, I think state parks fall in that category. You may disagree. You may disagree. There are some private parks, not many, and they're not very big. So anyway, that's my favorite form of state money, and I believe we could shift a lot of bullcrap to the parks, and I'd be happy with that because I do enjoy them for personal use. All right, guys, I hope y'all have a great weekend. Even if you've watched this puppy after it's been recorded live, because sometimes we have a ton of people that see it live, and sometimes we have very few. I don't understand how the Facebook algorithm works. Apparently, sometimes I'm more entertaining, or maybe y'all are more bored. I don't know. But if you would share this in the conservative groups, share it on your Facebook feed, comment on it. Even if you just put some bullcrap comment in it, it helps with the SEO of it. Not SEO, I guess it's the reach in social media. And do go to our podcast. And please, for the love of God and all things holy, if you do nothing else, subscribe to our newsletter. We got like so many people we reach every month, and I bet it's like 5-6 times more than our newsletter list. So go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to our podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And that's all I got. I'm going to go eat Indian food. I told John I'm in the office on Fridays down here, and he makes the strongest coffee in the world. It's just terrible. It's like truck driver coffee. Because he puts like half of his coffee is creamer, and I don't put hardly any creamer in mine. And so it's just rough. It's rough to get through. And now he's taking me to Indian food. I said, what are you trying to kill me? Trying to kill me? I'm an old man. My digestive tract may not be able to handle all this. So if you don't see me next week, it's because I celebrated John's birthday. Too hard, too heavy. All right, guys. Brandon Lewis of the Tennessee Conservative News. Love you, mean it. Take care. Talk to you next week.